Truth of the matter is, we were never created for earth, and earth was never really created for us.
All right.
We are living spirits, because once he blew into the nostrils of man, he became a living spirit. So as a living spirit, we've got to understand our spirit is constantly fighting to go back to God, while our flesh is trying to get settled on earth. And because we are spiritual beings, we've got to look at everything, and we've got to examine everything through the spirit. We got to pay attention. And, a couple of years ago, when I really started understanding this premise, several people got upset with me because church people don't like to deal with the fact that because you are spirit, you got to deal with everything that happens to you spiritually. Nothing happens by chance. Nothing happens by happenstance. But Psalms 37 and another place in Psalms says, the steps of a good man or woman are ordered by the Lord. Job even goes so far to say, and he knows the way that I take. And after he has tested me, after he has tried me, I shall come forth as pure gold. Okay, so we're living in the fact that we're spiritual. Then we got to deal with the second part of it. John says, God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. So I'm human, but I'm living in a spiritual world. And everything that's happening to me, God is allowing it to perfect me, to grow me, to shape me. And sometimes when God allows things to happen to me, I don't understand why he does it, but he always makes everything good. So with that premise, let's deal with this, because we're not just talking about bishops. We're not just talking about overseers. We're talking about everything that the Spirit is allowing to happen. I'll go through about 10 minutes discourse, and then we'll go, and I want to show you some examples in the Bible. First discourse. How many people here have ever been to Washington, D.C.? How many people have been to Washington? You've never been. You've never been. Okay, when we deal with Washington, D.C., and when we deal with the Bible, when we deal with our life, God deals in symbols. All right. I was paying attention. How far can I walk, Pastor? I was watching as Bishop Woodson was finishing, and I noticed on the screen and on the front of the pulpit, this is the bishop's seal. Mm-hmm. And everything in the seal has some type of significance. Right. It's not there by chance. Right? The seal means something. But everybody who walks in here doesn't realize that there's a meaning behind the seal. That's right. Because you don't just get a seal made. I went to the store, Brother Tony, I need you to make me a seal. He's got to question me as to, well, what do you want on it? Right. Why is this crown here? Why is the world here? Why is the cross here? Why is the bishop's staff on this side? And why is there a key? And why are there lines? Each part of this means something. Right. Because it is symbolic to the office of the bishop, and it is symbolic to her life and what her vision is. Right. You should be able to tell a person's vision by their seal. That's good. Teaching that, sir. You should be able, and then you got to be careful, because what you put in the seal sometimes can get you in trouble. All right. Like the name of the church. If you're naming the church Holy Ghost Cathedral, of Greensboro, you got to be ready for the spirit and the connotation that's behind the name that you have chosen. All right. And let me show you this, not only in the scripture, it's in the natural. You have a son, and when your son is born, you name him Jabbo. You don't realize that what you have done is you have attached a spirit to your son. And you might have never tried to discover what Jabbo means. So one day you come home and the school has called you and the child has gotten in trouble. And you say, Lord, I'm tired of going down to the school. And you discover that the name of Jabbo means rambunctious. It means troublesome. And you're trying to figure out, why is this child giving me so much trouble? It's because we never did our homework to find out the name on the building determines the number of demons you're going to have to fight. So we name it Holy Ghost Cathedral. We name it Tabernacle of Deliverance. And we don't realize that once you name it a deliverance church, it means that every Sunday that we come in here, we're going to have to fight. We're going to have to deal with spirits. We're going to have to deal with Satan. So let's draw what I've said so far and put it together. All right. So a couple of years ago, you all elected a president named Donald Trump. And when you elected the president, what you don't realize is you introduced the spirit that was in the president's life to a whole multitude of people. I think when we was talking, I can't remember who said it yesterday when we was talking. I think Mother said yesterday when we was talking. She said, but they said Donald Trump was a Christian. Well. One of them said it. Somebody said it. And so if Donald Trump is a Christian, he then becomes our icon as to what Christianity should be. Because to folks that are never saved, when they find out he's a Christian, they're going to start looking at his actions, his reactions, and how he operates. Okay. So it immediately became a problem for the church because now all of a sudden we got a Christian president that cusses, mistreats people, has no coup whatsoever. And it's just all out of line. So we take him and we move him from wherever he was living, New York. We move him from Florida because he don't know where he wants to stay. And we move him to the city of Washington, D.C. And what we don't realize is we have now put him in a high spiritual place. Look here. Because even though he's the president, he's also in a spiritual position. We put him in a White House that's supposed to stand symbolically for the people. Well, I got it. That's true. And then we don't understand, to every city, there is assigned a whole group of territorial demons. That's right. Then we don't discover the fact that the streets that are laid in D.C. are laid in D.C. to get on your nerves because there is an underlying spirit under every city. Okay, let's prove that out. If I was to say New York, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Say what? You like to travel, so you can say that. If I was to ask you what's the spirit behind Manhattan, New York, what would you say? I say greed. Greed? If I were to ask you what's the spirit behind Florida, what would you say? Water. If I was to ask you what's the spirit behind Greensboro, what would you say? Wickedness. I was asking the spirit behind, because what I want you to understand is wherever you plant your church, whatever city you plant it in, that's the demons you're going to have to fight. Right. So you can actually determine before you go into a city whether or not your ministry is ready for that city, or that city is ready for your ministry. Okay. High Point is a city where pastors don't like to get together. Pastors like to fight. And when church folks like to pull down and destroy churches. So before you go into that city, if I have that knowledge, and then I have a knowledge of the territorial demon that's flying over it, I already have a lead into that city. The same thing. It's the same thing if you were just going to move. I think I'm going to move to New York. I'm going to move to the bright lights. I'm going to move to the fast lights. And I'm going to move. It's a spirit behind that city. So that once you plant yourself in that city, you have to be able to deal with the spiritual. Because let's go back to the beginning. You are really not a physical being. You're really a spiritual being living in a physical house. This ain't me. This is the house that my spirit lives in. All right. So now I decided I'm gonna start pastoring in the big city. I'm going to pastor in New Jersey. I heard a lot of things about that. And once you determine that, you have determined, now I'm going to fight the demons that come with that city. Right. So Donald Trump goes to D.C. Then you don't realize, and I'm not trying to be offensive. I need to say these things so you'll understand where I'm going. In D.C., there is a building called the Washington Monument. It has a shape, and it goes straight up. And everybody comes every year to see this building, just to walk up the stairs, go to the top, come back down. What is it called? Obelisk. But what do we call tourists. So tourists are constantly in D.C. and they're looking. Benjamin Banneker laid out the streets. He's a black man. He was a black freed slave. He's laid out the streets. He also created the stoplight. He also created the pieces for the time clock. So we contribute that to a black man. When you leave the Washington Monument and you go over a few steps, you're at the White House. When you leave the White House and come over a few blocks, you are where the monuments, Martin Luther King, Lincoln, Jefferson, you're there around all of that. Well, each one of those buildings were built as a homage or as an honor to somebody. That's why you call it Lincoln, Jefferson, Washington. But when you do your research spiritually, because you're trying to get the message that you preach correct in church, you realize that you're in a city of underworldness, where everything in the city means something. If you understand, now be quiet. So every building means something. Every place is symbolic to something. Every piece of ground has been hollowed. I'm using the word hollow to mean holy. Has been set aside, sanctified for somebody who we never knew. So on President's Day, February 12th, they come back and they say, now we're going to celebrate Washington. We're going to celebrate Lincoln. And we don't realize what we're doing is celebrating people who enslaved our ancestors. Who have monuments built after them that if you go close enough to the monument and look at the writing on the wall, the writing on the wall is symbolic for some kind of spiritual system that's working underground. So we don't realize